Unafraid Show Daily Live Mailbag Edition. It is week 5 in college football, and we got your questions, which you either sent to at George Wrighster, at Unafraid Show, or you emailed in I'm Matt, IMMAD, at unafraidshow.com. So you guys make sure that you guys share with a friend, tell a friend about the show, and of course, comment and share, get notifications because this is the show for us. We love college football and we know that you guys do too. So, of course, we got to answer your questions and we will get it off on track. On track. But first thing I wanted to tell you is make sure too that you guys watch the games of the week videos, which will be out tomorrow. The betting videos, the picks against the spread, will be out tomorrow, Wednesday as well. And remember, we go live on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. All right, first question up from you guys. Through one quarter of the season, who are your Heisman candidates and who had the most surprising fall off of this year? Right now, the Heisman conversation is a one man race right now. I have Travis Hunter at number one, John Mateer over at Washington State at number two, number three, Jalen Milroe, number four, Cam Ward, and number five, Jackson Dart. And yes, that's a lot of quarterbacks because it has traditionally been a quarterback award. But this year in particular, got a video coming out on this as well about Travis Hunter because Travis Hunter should absolutely be the Heisman Trophy front runner right now. He's doing what Charles Woodson was doing on defense at Michigan when he was the last defensive player to win the Heisman Trophy. And you look at what he's doing on offense. The last time we had a wide receiver was Devonta Smith from Alabama. So he's doing what Devonta Smith did to win the Heisman Trophy and what Charles Woodson did to win the Heisman Trophy. So, yes, he should be number one right now because he's doing what Shohei Ohtani is doing in baseball, in football. And John Mateer, if you've not seen him play at Washington State, he's on pace to throw for 3,000 yards and rush for 1,000 yards as well. And then there's Jalen Milroe over at Alabama. He's carrying this Alabama offense. And so his numbers and his stats are going to be great. And then people like Cam Ward, he should be, yes, he's doing a good job, but Miami hasn't played anybody. So until they do, then yeah, he's going to be a little bit further behind. But him, and then the guy after that is Jackson Dart. Crazy stats. But if we're honest, how much of Jackson Dart have you actually seen this season? Not much because they haven't played anybody with a pulse. Their best team that they've played is Wake Forest. So Cam Ward and Jackson Dart are piling up stats very similar to what we saw to Jaden Daniels last year. So we can't count them out because their stats may be gaudy enough. But to me, if Travis Hunter starts and finishes the season and plays like he's playing right now, I don't give a damn what Colorado's record is because he's the best player in the sport right now. But the players who disappointing this season so far, and granted, it's a team success and all this stuff as well as that, it is Kyron Drones over at Virginia Tech. I thought that he had the potential to take a big Jaden Daniels type leap statistically at the quarterback position. It hasn't translated yet. And then the other one is Ollie Gordon II from Oklahoma State. He's only averaging, 2.9 yards a carry in his last couple of games. They're not running the ball over at Oklahoma State like they were. So, yes, it's not all him, but yes, there is some part of it as well. Next question up. What do you think of Dylan Raiola? Obviously, Nebraska's quarterback. So far, can he make Nebraska relevant again? Dylan Raiola has been fantastic for a freshman. Now, mind you, he doesn't look like the best quarterback in the country, but the most important thing that you see is the confidence in his eyes. Like he never looks lost, never looks overwhelmed. Did he miss a throw against Illinois that would have won the game? Yes. All quarterbacks miss some, but he's also a true freshman. And the most important thing that Nebraska has, they got a guy under center Number one, who wants to be at Nebraska is not going to transfer out unless something weird happens. And number two is he is taking care of the football. And he's made it so Nebraska can actually pass the football. And Nebraska's lost, had 7 straight losing seasons. I think that comes to an end this year. So, yes, that means that Nebraska will be relevant again. And their defense is good. Matt Rule's doing a good job recruiting, building a team, building a culture. And so, keeping Dylan Raiola there, at least for 2 more years, because he can't leave to go to the NFL before his junior year is over with. It is going to be a party out there in Lincoln. These fans are going to be rewarded for all of them sellouts, despite the team being bad. So, yes, Nebraska will be relevant again. They're going to play in big games, in big TV windows. And it is going to be thanks to him. And as soon as he figures out who he is, and not the cosplay, the Patrick Mahomes imitation, that's when you're going to see him step up from good, solid freshman quarterback to top tier quarterback in the country. And I think he's showing that so far. Next question up. And you guys can always leave your stuff in the chat too. I will always get to it as well. Um, do you think that Washington State had any idea that their quarterback, John Mateer, would be this good? And do you think that they can hold on to him? So that's always the magic question is, can you hold on to your quarterback if you're a team like Washington State and he ends up balling out? That's always the biggest question because everybody is trying to be Mr. Steal Your Girl, still your quarterback. And if you're Washington State, you're going to have to pony up big time NIL money if you want to keep this kid because he's on pace for and I told you already, a 3,000, 1,000 season. So 3,000 yards passing, 1,000 yards rushing. And that's only been done a few times in the history of college football. So you got some big time names on that list. You got Lamar Jackson on that list. You have Jalen Hurts on that list, Kyler Murray on that list, Vince Young on that list. And all of these schools that said they would be better off without their starting quarterback and pushing them out the door, well, they're going to be knocking at the door. And I'm talking about teams like Oklahoma, which pushed Dylan Gabriel out of the door for Jackson Arnold, who's now benched. Kansas State pushed Will Howard out for Avery Johnson. Yeah, so they're going to be trying to steal John Mateer after this season. And there's going to be other teams as well. But Washington State is getting incredible play out of a 2-star quarterback. And this is not the first time that they've done that. They did it with Cam Ward, who came from Incarnate Ward. They did it with Anthony Gordon, and they were 0-star kids out of high school. And then Gardner Minshew, NFL quarterback, who was a 0-star out of JUCO. So it's going to be interesting the amount of running, though, that John Mateer does for the rest of the year, because obviously his body is going to get beat up on some level running the ball at this level. But Jalen Milroe's in that same category, too. An interesting fact, though, is that John Mateer is actually draft eligible after this year. So it wouldn't be naive to think that there won't come a time after this year when he considers all of his options. And if he's looking at 7 figures to transfer, million and a half, like some of these quarterbacks or more, like some of they've gotten, it's going to be tough for Wazoo to keep him. But the other side of this is that Washington State has cemented in themselves as a launching pad for quarterbacks. So they're not going to have any trouble getting a quarterback in that door or developing the ones that they have in there. And they got a good one that they're going right now that's committed to him, Still Pizzella, out of Notre Dame High School. I am excited about him and his future potentially at Washington State. Fourth question. What are your thoughts about Mack Brown, North Carolina's head coach, reportedly telling his team that he was going to resign after UNC gave up 70 points to James Madison? All right, I get it. We all have knee-jerk reactions, and the dude is 73 years old. And then once sober minds prevailed, he came back and apologized to the team saying, yo, there was too much pressure to put on you guys. And he said, quote, I shouldn't have put that pressure on them. So I'm disappointed in me. I love my job. I love these kids. I love this place. And that's why I hate losing so much. College football needs Mack Brown right now. He's an older guy, but he's not an old get off my lawn fuddy duddy guy. He's embracing NIL. He's embracing the kids. It gives him purpose. And so for him, I think that it was a moment where he felt bad because he's like, I'm brought here to win. And we got 50 some put on us before halftime by James Madison. No disparagement to James Madison. They have come up from an FCS school to now a FBS school, and they're doing a really good job. But North Carolina can't get 70 hung on them by James Madison. And Mack Brown was just sitting there thinking like, yo, have I lost a step? Does somebody else need to take it? And that's good self-reflection, but just don't say it to your team next time. Mack. Next thing up is Hugh Freeze melting down right now after his quotes about his quarterbacks. Obviously, Auburn's head coach and Arkansas Sam Pittman, or does he have a point? And here's the quote that he made about his running backs and his quarterback after they lost this last week. And they lost to Arkansas, I think it was 24-14. And he said, I know that there's people open, and I know that we're running the football, and we got to find a guy that won't throw it to the other team, and we've got to find running backs that are going to hold on to it. And I'm like, you can't be throwing your team under the bus, man. You just can't. And it's not that Hugh Freeze is not a good coach or anything like that, but he's the one that trotted that quarterback out there. He's the one who decided to make the switch from Peyton Thorne, who he brought back in and threw 2 touchdown passes. So some of this, as a coach, you have to say, I got to coach the team up better. Because you can't blame the players when they're not performing. Number one, you chose to put them out there. And number two, you coach them up on how to do it. So as a coach, you got to bite the bullet and say, this is my fault as the leader of the organization. But this quote, I did not like at all. And this is what he talked about the Arkansas game. He said, quote, I mean, no offense whatsoever to Arkansas or to Cal, both of them who beat them. I love Sam Pittman, and I hope he wins the rest of his games. But I'm telling you the hard truth. If we play them being Cal and Arkansas 9 more times, we beat them 9 times, and that's what's hard to take. No, you would not beat them 9 times, Hugh Freeze. You just complained about your quarterbacks and running back not holding on to the ball and throwing the ball to the other team. You think that's magically going to stop if you play them 9 more times? No, this is an excuse. This is a passing the buck type of thing. And good teams, the best teams, win games they're supposed to win. Bad teams don't. And right now, Auburn's a bad team. Can they be a good team? Yes. But right now, they are a bad football team in terms of winning and closing out games. But to his defense, though, you had former Ole Miss quarterback Bo Wallace talking on Twitter. He said, we're approaching the point where he's thrown so many QBs under the bus, and that maybe nobody wants to play for him. His offense helped me tremendously put up numbers when I blew my shoulder out. But why is it somebody else's fault every time there's a loss? But when there's a win, I watch the press conferences just to count down how many times he uses the word I. And I appreciate him for what he did for me. But my son wouldn't be playing for him, though. I think that's fair. Because the criticism about Hugh Freeze has always been that he wants to know what can be done for Hugh Freeze. And that it kind of explains why he called a dozen escort services from his Ole Miss phone. I'm just saying. But he won a lot of games at Liberty. And Auburn boosters thought that this was going to be their path back to championship form because they're highly impatient over there. And now they're minus 10 in the turnover margin and have 3 ranked teams and 3 SEC road games in their next 4 games. That's going to be tough. And unless Hugh Freeze can go 2-2 in them games, he's gonna have the same or a worse record than Brian Harsin did at this point in time. So what are Auburn fans gonna say about that? Because remember, it was Brian Harsin. Before that, it was Gus Malzahn, and now it's so there's something going on. You got to make sure that you're hiring the right coaches and supporting them and giving them a proper amount of time to build. Number 6. Did you see what BYU fans did for Avery Johnson after beating Kansas State? How cool is that? BYU fans, you get a hand clap. Congratulations, because this just shows that it's more important than the actual games. That, yes, the games matter, but good job on them. And you actually even had Kansas State quarterback Avery Johnson, who decided to pledge money for his high school principal, who has his high school principal, I think is Dr. Chris Botts, because he's battling stage 4 cancer. And Avery Johnson is trying to help him raise funds to cover a potential life-saving treatment. So he pledged money for every touchdown that he scores this season. But Avery Johnson didn't get in the end zone in their 38-9 loss against BYU. So BYU fans, good on you. They stepped in and they flooded the GoFundMe with tens of thousands of dollars. So they beat you, and then they turned around and donated to your charitable exercises. Now, I will give them credit though. BYU, I love the trolls, because some of the donations have been for $38.09, which is a good way to troll the opponent, but you also did something good on the back end. And just to think though, the NCAA spent hundreds of millions of dollars to stop this type of thing from being allowed. Man, get out of here. NCAA, blow it, suck it, whatever else, because as much as NIL, that some stuff is icky and don't feel good, this is one of the great things going on out in the world of college football. All right, number 7. What is your reaction to Baylor head coach Dave Aranda saying that the final defensive play call in regulation against uh, Colorado? Because remember, they basically kind of threw a Hail Mary, that it was called Victory Cigar. Now, that's a terrible headline, but what else do you want them to do? It's called Victory Cigar because it's supposed to be that. It's supposed to be the quarterback's hand, like that the game is over. That all you got to do is knock it down. 2 players over there, and they failed at that job. But you end up with a sprint out, and the quarterback. So the player who blitzed off the slot, he was supposed to go inside, outside for contain. He went inside. Shador went outside. Bam. So yes, your victory cigar was like a cartoon cigar, and it blew up in your face. And so the coach said, that's a shame because he's contained. I've never seen that. I take full responsibility for that. I have to find a way to coach better, and so I've never seen anything like that. Good job. Good job, Dave Aranda. Don't blame the players. Say we didn't coach that situation up well enough. They had seen the play on film. They called timeout to get the right play and still blew it. Good job on him. The next question is, what is the ceiling for Colorado this year? Because Colorado right now is 3-1. So the question is, what does the rest of their season look like? So right now, here's the rest of their games. They got UCF, Kansas State, at Arizona, Cincinnati, at Texas Tech, Utah, at Kansas, and then Oklahoma State. Now, from what we've seen already out of this 3-1 team, this is a team that will lose. They're going to lose to Utah. And honestly, that's the only game on their schedule that I can pretty much guarantee that that's a loss. So that puts them at 3-2. and that gives them 7 more games. So they can beat UCF. Kansas State's offense hasn't looked great. So that's going to be an opportunity to potentially have a ranked game on October the 12th after their bye week. I am going to put Colorado 7-5. Maybe, dare I say, 8-4. Unbelievable. So, and I'm gonna tell you, if they go 7-5 or 8-4, especially if they go 8-4, their fans are gonna go crazy. And all of that, Dion's leaving as soon as his sons leave, all 3 of them, Shiloh, Shador, and Travis Hunter, all of that's gonna go out the window. And their recruiting is going to take a major jump if they are able to get to 8 wins, especially. Because then people are going to be like, high school commit recruits are going to be like, I believe, I believe that we will win and want to sign up for that. The next question is, what does Billy Napier, Florida's head coach, to need to do from here to keep his Florida job? What does Billy Napier need to do from here on out to keep his Florida Gators job? Because right now his buyout is $26 million. And Florida, their university has already been under scrutiny for wasteful and unethical spending under Ben Sassay's leadership. And Sassay resigned in July. So Florida is still without a president, which makes it very hard to hire and fire head coaches. And Florida sits at number 21 in the high school recruiting rankings for 2025. They got 14 commits, 8 from Florida, and 3 in the top 100 on 247. So recruiting is always going to help a coach keep his job. So if they can move up from 21 to inside the top 10, then yes, that is going to bring so much hope, because recruits typically leave, or some of them will defect when coaches are fired, unless you bring in a name or somebody that they have familiarity with. So I look at this team, and you're looking at, they got a win against Mississippi State, and now they're, I believe, sitting at 2-2. They got UC. They're off this week. Then they got UCF. They're going to lose to Tennessee. The Kentucky game is going to be tough. They're going to lose to Georgia, lose to Texas. Damn. Oh, Lord. LSU is going to give them a run for their money, too. But I don't trust LSU like everybody else trust LSU. I really think that LSU is a barely top 25 team by the time, if that at all, by the time that this season fully shakes out. So I am going to, let's say that they beat UCF, they beat Kentucky, they beat LSU, and they beat Florida State. That'll get them to 6 wins. And 6 wins for this Florida Gators team when their over under was 5 would be a heroic feat by their head coach and that team in Billy Napier. But I do believe that a more likely scenario is 4-8. And if they're 4-8, it's going to be tough for him to keep that job, buddy. Um, Number 10. What are your thoughts on the Pac 12 using the Mountain West to rebuild? Will it work, or is this just become 2 West Coast G5 conferences like when there was the Mountain West and the WAC? All right. So here's the current breakdown of what's happening. Utah State going to the Pac 12 now gives them 7 teams. Obviously, they already have Washington State, Oregon State, San Diego State, Fresno State, Colorado State, and Boise State have all agreed to join. And then Utah State. So all 7 schools have state right now. Memphis, all the all the American teams that were planning to come, it looks like they backed out at this point in time. UNLV and Air Force were supposed to be going to the Pac-12. Then they were going to stay in the Mountain West. So this is going to be an ugly situation. And the Pac-12 just filed a lawsuit against the Mountain West as well. So all you keep politics out of sports people, politics are back involved in sports again, because this is going to be a lawsuit. But the question is, though, is that does adding Mountain West teams turn the Pac-12, does it keep them as a Power 5 school? I'm going to say no, unless they're able to add ACC teams when the ACC breaks up. And they still got another year to be able to do that. And they got to be able to secure a TV contract as well. So they're going to need pledges from some other people. So there may be an acceleration to the ACC breaking up or the Mountain West, because they're going to have teams that they need 9 votes to break up the conference, and they're getting real close to that. All right. Last question. Can the QB situations at Notre Dame and Michigan make the college football playoff? No, not as currently constructed, because Notre Dame, with Riley Leonard at the helm, they haven't been able to score very many touchdowns. Obviously, outside of that Purdue game that was 66-7. But even still, their passing yards, not good. Their running game has been fantastic, but it is going to be very, very difficult to even get into the college football playoff for Notre Dame if they're not able to pass the ball, because that means that they're not going to make it through the rest of their schedule unscathed. They already got a bad loss to NIU, who lost to Buffalo last week, so that's not good. So Notre Dame, they got to win, and the only way that they're going to win is figure out the rest of their games is to figure out how to pass the football at a higher level, whether that's switching out Riley Leonard or something else. Next one, Michigan. Can Michigan make the college football playoff playing like this? Yes. Yes, they can. Can they win the Big Ten? Absolutely not, because they've already beaten USC. And if they're able to maintain third or fourth in the Big Ten, they're going to be a top 12 team. Now, can Michigan beat the teams in the playoffs? No, not unless Alex Orji is able to start passing the ball, or this Alex Orji passing the ball, or Davis Warren passing the ball, because they have to figure something out at quarterback, because this is not going to cut it versus good teams. You saw what happened to them versus Texas. USC stormed all the way back. If you can stop that run, you can put Michigan in an absolute chokehold. And you guys, that is the Unafraid Show mailbag. Make sure that you tell a friend. Make sure that you share the Unafraid Show. Make sure that you get notifications, because the show is great. And shoot us emails. I'm Matt, IMMAD, at unafraidshow.com, or at George Wrighster on Twitter or wherever else, or at Unafraid Show. We will get to your questions. Peace out. Catch you guys on Thursday for the next live.